CBS News Miami.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lauren Pastrana, and welcome to CBS News Miami's 4 p.m. Quickcast. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Right off the top, a devastating situation out of Opa-locka. Chopper 4 over the scene of the train tracks where police are responding to reports of a dead man along Northwest 27th Avenue and Alibaba Avenue. Police say it appears the man was hit by an Amtrak train. Police continue to investigate at this scene, and we'll bring you the updates as soon as we get them.
Always alerting, always tracking. This is Next Weather.
And taking a live look outside right now on this Friday. It is warm, it is humid, but we want to know how it's looking for the weekend. A cruise sounds nice for the weekend. Next Weather Chief Meteorologist Ivan Cabrera joins us now with a look ahead at the weather.
The pools on the cruises are going to be busy. And I tell you what, and all of us are going to be, hopefully, you got to cool off somehow. This is going to be and feel like, early summer here. We're talking about the feels like temperatures into the 90s, so we're not going to be able to cool off all that much. 82 is the current temperature, and we're just going to ramp things up, I think, for tomorrow, and especially Sunday. That's when we're looking at temperatures that could approach the records for the day of the year. They're 82 across the board, except Key West are at 81. You factor in the humidity, almost feels like 90 in Fort Lauderdale, 87 in Miami and Homestead. And remember, the feels like temperature, we haven't had to do this in a while, is calculated in the shade, so that's what it feels like under a tree, not so much outside. If you're going to be outside exposed to the sun, definitely hydrate, because it's going to be one of those weekends here that we have just not been used to. Not much on a radar here. Next Radar Network not picking up on anything except a couple of little inland showers that have been just kind of grazing Chrome Avenue here, and I think for the rest of the evening that would be about it. We're going to stay on the dry side with temperatures falling back a little bit, but it's still steamy, so it'll still feel warmer than the actual number there, upper 70s right through 10 o'clock. The pattern has us set up ahead of this front, which thankfully will move through here, but it won't do that until late Sunday, and so that means that both weekend days will feature breezy, warm, and humid conditions. Isolated showers, I think, will be dry tomorrow, but Sunday, as the front comes in, we could be looking at a few showers popping up. This front does not have much moisture with it. It is causing severe weather right now across the Gulf Coast, but thankfully that energy is going to go north and away from us. So here's the rain tracker for tomorrow. Saturday, pretty quiet here. The winds will begin to shift out of the south, southeast, and eventually the warmest wind direction we get, which is that southwest wind that's going to pump in the moisture. Notice by the time we get into the middle part of the day, particularly a couple of early morning sprinkles, and then there's the front coming through with a broken line of showers. That would be about it. So I think we're in pretty good shape here. 7-day forecast will take us through spring forward. Don't forget the clocks here. We lose an hour of sleep, but sunset after 7 o'clock on Sunday with that 30% chance of showers, and then drying out, and behind the front, temperatures back to normal at 80 degrees for early next week.
Ivan, thank you. Now at 4, terrifying moments involving 2 planes at Miami International Airport. The planes clipped each other while on the tarmac. That Frontier plane was in the process of getting ready to board passengers, just parked at the gate when an American Airlines flight backed up and hit the Frontier flight. We have video that captured the moments this all happened. You see an employee on the tarmac trying to get the pilot on the American flight to stop moving. The American flight was headed to Sao Paulo, Brazil. The Frontier flight was on its way to Dallas. These photos show the damage to the planes, a hole in the wing stabilizer on the Frontier flight, and a chunk missing from the wing on the American Airlines flight. We spoke to a passenger who was supposed to be on that Frontier flight to Dallas to visit friends.
People were angry for the most part, and they were doing their best to kind of diffuse us from our angry mob state. I was fine with it, to be fair. It was and I had already accepted my fate maybe 3 hours prior. But basically they told us that we would be good for people who were not residents, would be able to get a hotel room on them, so they'd pay for a hotel room for them to be stationed at. And the flight was going to be moved to 1:45 in the afternoon.
Now, we did get statements from both airlines. American sent a statement saying, in part, quote, "Customers deplaned normally and the aircraft was taken out of service to be inspected by our maintenance team. We apologize to our customers for the inconvenience this caused." Frontier Airlines said, in part, quote, "Only crew members were on board the Frontier aircraft at the time and no injuries have been reported. Frontier is currently assessing damage and reaccommodating customers." The case of OnlyFans model Courtney Clenny and her parents back in court today. Courtney Clenny is accused of killing her boyfriend in their Edgewater apartment 2 years ago. Her parents were recently arrested and accused of being in possession of her dead boyfriend's laptop. The family's defense attorney tried arguing in front of a judge today that the items in Courtney Clenny's iCloud and her mother's iCloud should not be handed over to prosecutors, as there are private communications between attorneys on those devices. The prosecutors said from what they have seen, there could be important evidence on the cloud, like Father Kim Clenny asking Courtney if she knew the password for the laptop. The judge is still making her decision on what that motion will look like and several others. We are monitoring the case and will continue to bring you the latest. Fresh off a fiery State of the Union address this week, the general election campaign kicked off in earnest with President Joe Biden traveling to a key battleground state this afternoon. This comes as former President Donald Trump is completing a takeover of the Republican establishment. CBS News Miami's Natalie Brand breaks it all down for us from Washington.
Lauren, President Biden is now headed to Philadelphia, where he'll give the first campaign remarks since the 2024 race for the White House kicked off in earnest this week. It comes off of an animated, at times combative State of the Union address, where he went directly after the likely GOP nominee. President Biden is taking his 2024 message on the road, speaking tonight in Pennsylvania, one of the states that decided the last presidential election.
Will you commit to a debate with former President Trump? It depends on his behavior.
Thursday night, the president delivered a fiery State of the Union address, previewing the campaign ahead.
Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today.
Without using his name, he referenced his likely 2024 challenger more than a dozen times, warning of threats at home and abroad.
Now my predecessor, a former Republican president, tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." That's a quote.
The current president and former will both hold dueling rallies in Georgia, another battleground state, on Saturday, ahead of the state's primary Tuesday. Next week, former President Trump is poised to officially win the delegates needed to clinch the GOP nomination.
I'm stepping aside today.
Friday, Republican National Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel stepped down, paving the way for Trump loyalists, including his daughter-in-law, to be elected.
Winning the White House back is just too important for me to do otherwise. President Trump deserves to have the team he wants in place at the RNC.
The new leaders will try to close the significant fundraising gap. Records from February show the Biden campaign and DNC have roughly double the cash on hand compared to Trump's team and the RNC. Now, in another 2024 twist, the No Labels political group announced today that it will move forward with trying to identify candidates for a unity presidential ticket. It's unclear at this point who that would be. Both Nikki Haley and Senator Joe Manchin have said that they would not consider running on a No Labels ticket. At the White House, I'm Natalie Brand. Lauren, back to you.
Natalie, thank you. Former President Donald Trump has posted a nearly $92 million bond as he appeals the E. Jean Carroll defamation judgment against him. In January, a federal jury awarded Carroll $83.3 million in damages because it felt Trump's statements were defamatory. The bond is greater than the judgment because the court requires a party to post 110% of the award. Carroll said Trump raped her in a department store dressing room in the 1990s. He then defamed her by denying it, saying she was not his type, and accusing her of making it up in order to boost her book sales. When we come back, we're just 2 days away from the Calle Ocho Festival. Coming up, the major closures and detours you need to be aware of this weekend. Welcome back to CBS News Miami's 4 p.m. Quickcast. Today is Bike 305 Day and Miami-Dade's 11th annual Bike to Work Day. Hundreds of riders don their helmets and hit the road. Mayor Daniela Levine Cava led the group on the ride from Crandon Marina to the Government Center in downtown Miami. Bike 305 promotes the county's designated bike paths, safety, health benefits, and an additional mode of transportation. Three-time Tour de France champion Greg LeMond has long pushed for cycling as a mode of transportation and has seen it take off around the country.
People now that are looking at cycling as an activity for health and transportation, so it enhances everybody's life. Some people never get on a bike. Sad for them, but you know, I think it's kind of like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they'll come. I saw a bike path in Minnesota that, you know, everybody's complaining about the cost, and they built it. It was like a traffic jam of bikes. So people want to ride a bike, but they need safe routes.
Lemon added it's no coincidence tourism has boomed in cities known for being biker and cycling friendly. Expect heavy traffic in Little Havana this weekend for Calle 8. Here are the closures to expect along Southwest 8th Street between Southwest 27th and 13th Avenues. This closure will be in place until 5 a.m. Monday. Now, to get around this, here's a look at your alternates. Nearby neighborhood streets will be packed. So either use Coral Way to the south or Flagler Street to the north. We'll have more information and a look at these maps on our website, cbsmiami.com. The fight for women's rights is on display around the world today as millions mark International Women's Day. Some are spending the day in protest, others struggling through war. CBS News Miami's Tina Krause has the story.
Crowds of women clashed with police in the Philippines, demanding an end to sexual harassment in the country. Calls for gender equality and better pay echoed across Asia, the Middle East, and around the world as women rallied for global support. We work without any assurance, this woman says, for minimum wages and no overtime. Many women in France are celebrating this International Women's Day as the country becomes the first in the world to guarantee the right to abortion in its constitution.
For us, it's a fundamental right, and it has to be in the Constitution because you can always change the law.
Young women in England are embracing a future Olympic sport, trying flag football for the first time, taking inspiration from NFL stars.
With today being some of these girls' first day, maybe some of them might be in the Olympics too.
But there's no sign of optimism in Gaza, with Palestinian women struggling to survive after months of the Israel-Hamas war. She says, my dream is to go back to my house, to my life, to wake up in the morning and be able to feed my children. And in Israel, mothers with daughters still held hostage say they're living hell on earth.
I'm focused on my decision that she will come home alive.
Heartfelt hope on a day designed to bring freedom to all women. Tina Krause, CBS News.
Meanwhile, here at home, I had the honor of moderating an insightful panel of accomplished local leaders, change makers, and businesswomen. The event at the Coconut Grove Women's Club benefits Girls Inc. of Greater Miami, an organization that equips girls with the essential tools to become the best versions of themselves. And my colleague, CBS News Miami anchor Chelsea Jones, hosted the Jazz in the Gardens Women's Impact Luncheon featuring superstar recording artist and celebrity Fantasia. You can hear from her starting tonight at 5 on CBS News Miami. And that right there is a picture of many of the incredible women I work alongside here at CBS News Miami. That does it for our Quickcast today. I'm Lauren Pastrana. Stay tuned for more news right here on CBS Miami.